Oh, Kristen Stewart, you used to annoy me, but now you make good movies. I'm not sure how I feel about this yet. Okay, that's enough of that. So welcome to my review for Underwater, directed by William Gothard and starring... Now, before we get into the movie proper, let me just say that this movie flopped hard at the box office. I think it lost like 30, 40, 50 million, something like that. Completely bombed. But you know what? In the UK, the release date of the film was something like January the 20th. And I looked out for this film because I wanted to see it. It just wasn't showing at my local cinema. And it's not a small cinema. It's like a big multiplex with about 10 screens. I was looking for it for weeks. They just weren't showing it. Now, we can't watch these movies and support them if you don't put them in the cinemas, guys. So what do you expect? Mini rant over. Right, on with the film. And the plot is about a drilling station at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. If you don't know what the Mariana Trench is, it's like supposedly the deepest seabed in the world. It's sort of just off the coasts of the Philippines and Japan, kind of out to sea that way. It's about 7 miles from the surface to the bottom, apparently. So in this fictional story, there's a drilling station right at the bottom of this place. Obviously very dangerous. And you don't go down there in submersibles. There's like a big pillar that goes all the way from the bottom to the top. So completely unrealistic for anybody to afford to do this in real life. But I guess this is sometime in the future. Anyway, some sea creatures that have never previously been seen before by mankind somehow come out of the seabed and dislodge this tower bit a little way up. And they're just stranded on the bottom. Now, a lot of the people managed to get out by taking up the escape pods or whatever. But some of the characters can't get out that way because there aren't enough pods or something. There are exactly 6 of them, so just a good amount for a horror film, if you see what I mean, and on we go. Now, I'll start with the big negative. No, the cinema thing was not my big negative. Big negative for this film is that there's just no first act. Literally, we join the film at the start of the second act just when all the crap's starting to hit the fan. There's no build-up. There's no introduction to any of the characters. The scene isn't set. I mean, this station place is something that's never been seen before in film. We know nothing about it. We'd like to see it. We'd like to just, you know, take a look around it, get to know the place a little bit. But there's none of that. We just start in this corridor and the next thing, water's gushing in from everywhere and we're into the film. So, you know, this whole movie feels like a cross between Aliens and The Abyss. So I'd kind of judge it against those films in a way. Those films were brilliant in how they sort of slowly built things up. You got to see the scene a little bit, well, for quite a while actually, but there's none of that in this movie. I don't know if it's budgetary concerns or whether it was a creative decision to just throw you straight into the deep end, no pun intended, but definitely a negative for me. I mean, I wasn't mentally ready for the part of this movie that you dumped into, you know? I mean, coming all the way from the surface, that's where these characters are coming from, and that's a frightening thing. I think it would have been a good scene if we followed the characters that are coming down the elevator thing. You know, there could have been a big long talk as they're going down where some smart-ass scientist starts giving out advice about what happens when the bends come around and the dangers of implosions and things like that and the pressures of water. That could have really, you know, scared the audience and made them think, oh my God, we're going deeper and deeper down towards this station place. But then there's nothing like that. We literally just start from the second act. It's quite bizarre. To be fair though, once the movie gets going and you kind of get used to the fact that you're not going to have much of an opening, it's really absorbing, it's really gripping. The characters have got so many things to contend with. I mean, this tower thing, that it's slowly collapsing around them. There's one early scene where they have to crawl through this debris and there's all these dead bodies and it's really claustrophobic. They're running out of air. Another pleasant surprise was the fact that we don't spend this entire film in this one bit of station. It turns out in this story, humans have been drilling down here for a long time, and there's lots of kind of abandoned stations and buildings floating around on the seabed. So they realise ultimately that they're going to have to seek out some escape pods that might still be lying around in one of these other places, which means putting on all these fancy underwater suits and going out and actually walking in the sea with all that pressure on top of them, and the worried the equipment might not work or the air might not last. There's just so much going on. It's absolutely fascinating, and it moves along quite quickly as well. And every time they get past one little bit without losing a man, you just kind of think, yes, good going, guys, because you know you're really behind them. Which makes it a shame then when the film introduces these creatures where you just think, oh no, we didn't need those. The film, they were under the cosh so much already. We didn't need this extra threat. I mean, you sort of guess that it's the creatures that are responsible for knocking this obelisk out of commission in the first place at the start of the film, but I think the film brings them back too quickly halfway through. They should have just kept these things for the end of the film, because when we get to the finale, you couldn't have the finale without the creatures. You know, we get to see the big bad creature right at the last place they go to where these escape pods are. And that whole sequence is just amazing with this big creature and the battle they have to go through. Fine, bring the creatures in at that point. But in the middle section of the film, when they're tackling the ocean and it's more of a disaster movie at that point, I just don't think we needed it. And there's this action scene tacked on at this point where the characters have to sort of diverge in order to survive these attacks. And that whole bit could have been better. It really could. I mean, I know what you're going to say to me. Well, if that's how you feel, go and watch a disaster movie. And there is part of this film that has given me the appetite actually to go and seek out a couple of disaster movies like the Poseidon Adventure or something like that. But I don't know, I still really enjoyed it. I just have one or two sort of misgivings that could have made it so much better. And I do wish I'd seen it in cinemas. It really would have benefited from being seen on the big screen. In terms of the characters, like I said before, there's only 6 of them. 4 of them really good, really well written. The other 2, I wouldn't say I disliked them, I was just more indifferent to them. But on the whole, a really good ratio of characters. I was really behind them from minute 1. I really wanted them to get as far as they could through this adventure and lose as fewer people as possible. Kristen Stewart's very good, I must say. There was also a British actress in this who, I don't know her name, but she was very good as well. On the whole, some good performances. And I enjoyed it. I'd love to see a sequel for it. I can't see it happening with the box office, but there we go. But definitely catch it. It's not brilliant, but it's definitely a good watch. I definitely enjoyed it. And let's get to the Bag of Terror and find out what sort of score that translates to. We have 1, 2, 3, 3.5 bloody axes. So just slightly better than average. It could have been so much better, but it's still a good movie. I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again one day, definitely. So that is Underwater. Came out earlier this year. Give it a try. Now we do have a pin for the horror locations board. It'll be the first one I've ever put into the ocean. I'm going to put it just where the Mariana Trench should be. It's, like I said before, it's just off the Philippines and Japan. So stay tuned for that clip, which will follow this one. But apart from that, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.